Foton Mars. That's the new rival to the GWM Cannon, Isuzu D-Max and Kia Tasman. It's got a good ring to it, much like the rings around Saturn. But in Australia, it's known as the Foton Tunland, which would be okay if this was once again just a tired and old ute from China, when really it's pretty much just one of those things. My name is Byron Mathioudakis for CarsGuide.com.au, here to tell you why the all-new Foton Tunland deserves a fresh name. Let's go. So how keen is the pricing? Both Tunlands span a 10k range, starting from a tenner under 40k for the base V7C 4x2. The C in V7C stands for core, but it's hardly been stripped down to one. Available in 4x2 or part-time 4x4 from $42,990 before on road costs, the V7C includes a 14.6-inch wireless multimedia display, 360-degree camera with a transparent road down below monitor, and a decent stack of ADAS advanced driver assist systems. Do note though that there is no lockable tailgate for now or digital radio. Stepping up to the V9L 4x4 from 46k switches from a Ford F-150 style face to a face that looks like a Ram 1500, but it also gains wheel arch cladding, a sports bar, a vehicle to load power socket, heated and powered front seats, and coil sprung rear suspension instead of the V7C's leaf spring setup. And lastly, the flagship V9S 4x4 from just 50k scores a front diff lock, roof rails, sunroof, vented front seats, and heaps more. This is very appealing pricing for a bottom-end ute, especially for its 30% upsize. And the Tunland's got something else up its sleeve as well. What would you say if you were mistaken for a Hollywood hunk? The point is that both the Ford F-150-esque V7 as well as the very reminiscent V9 version are good-looking designs, and even though they are shameless copies of the American originals, they both are well-proportioned and look really handsome and have got good presence. And you can't blame a Chinese car company that is a challenger brand to want to break through with all that noise from all these other utes that are in the market as well. And you know what? With one bold stroke of the pencil, that design association tells a story of how much bigger these are compared to other utes. And the same brilliant thinking applies inside. One of the most impressive things about the new Tunland is how mature and sophisticated this interior is. Yes, it looks like every other Chinese ute interior ever over the last year or so, but it works largely really well. It's got an excellent driving position, there's heaps of storage, ventilation is first class, and thankfully they've got buttons here so you don't have to rely too much on getting lost in sub-menus in the touchscreen. They're the good things. Also, the seats are pretty comfortable, vision's great, and there's space galore. But negative points? Well, in the V7, there was a persistent rattle from the door in every single version we drove. And I think that has to do with the leaf spring suspension as opposed to the V9's coil suspension, where it just means the rubbers rattle. And I think that is a fix that needs to come pretty soon. There's also a bit of shaking from the passenger seat on rough roads. And the other thing I notice is that the screen needs to be prodded 2 or 3 times in order to get some of the items working or operational, and that was a bit frustrating. But other than that, this is really good. And it's the same out back too, where there's enough space, all amenities such as face level air vents and reading lights and map pockets and a center armrest and cup holders are present. There's a little bit of storage underneath the back seat, but there's nothing behind the backrest, which is a little bit of a shame given the size of this cabin. But all in all, it's a very well made, well presented, and fairly high quality effort from Tunland. That's really good stuff. Now, we've crunched the numbers, and the Tunland sits nearly midway between a Ford Ranger and regular Ford F-150 in most major dimensions except wheelbase, where it's about a quarter of the way longer. The mid-size utes are closer when it comes to the tub, but the Foton is still usefully larger for bigger loads and is also strong in payload, GCM and GVM, as well as off-road clearances. And accessories specialist Ironman will supply items like canopies, tow bars and bull bar options. Note though, you can't lock the tailgate in the V7C at this early stage. A fix is coming soon though. Unlike the Ford Ranger, this has struts. Also, it's got a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, although in this case, it's attached to a 48-volt mild hybrid system, driving either the rear wheels or all 4 wheels via a ZF 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission. Outputs are a bit on the low side considering this is a larger and heftier ute than most. Let's see how that translates out on the road. But let's start with the similarities. They both have a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, as I mentioned earlier, and you know what? It's not the most powerful unit. In fact, it feels a little bit lacking in performance. It is smooth and they've done a good job containing the noise and vibration, but you really need to rev it hard for it to go, and with a load on board, up a hill and that sort of thing, it just needs more muscle. However, it is smooth and refined. The steering similarly is really good in the V7 and the V9 alike because it's well weighted, you feel connected to the front end of the car, and it is accurate, and you get lots of feedback. So I really like the steering. That is the biggest surprise for me driving the Tunlands. However, as you might expect, the leaf-sprung rear suspension means that the V7 is choppy on bumpy roads. Like it's very jittery. The body shakes. You can actually hear the rubber move in the door sills under certain conditions, and it just isn't that comfortable. Now, it's not as bad as the worst in class, but work definitely needs to be done there. And for that reason, I'd go for the V9. The V9 is measurably more comfortable and contained. They both, as I said, handle well, and they grip the road well. And the ADAS tech actually is not very intrusive, so it's quite a calming drive. But I just wish that there was a little bit more suspension compliance. Other than that, they're not deal breakers, any of them, because there are worse riding utes, but you basically get what you pay for in the Tunland, but at least it's not so bad. And as long as you're prepared to put up with a bit of a busy ride, then I think most people will find it more than adequate as an all-round drive. That's on-road. How is the Tunland off-road? Well, I'm about to explain that right now. Unsurprisingly, the V7's ride comfort deteriorated even more off the beaten track, with a jittery patter and some minor body flex causing the door rubbers to squeak. That wasn't detected in the coil-sprung V9, which clearly handled the rough stuff better. Overall though, the Tunland did a good job over a not too demanding 4x4 course, aided by decent clearances and the lockable rear plus V9's front differentials, as well as the settled and measured steering. The 13.5 litres per 100 kilometres indicated off-road fuel consumption readout wasn't too bad either. Back on the bitumen, the Tunland's official combined fuel consumption average is just 8 litres per 100 kilometres. Lending a hand here is auto stop start and battery regenerative energy recovery technology. So much for the theory. This V7C 4x4 averaged 10.3 litres per 100 kilometres during our drive day, and that's not bad considering that it had 4 people and plenty of luggage in the back. But what about crash safety? Is the new Tunland as bad as the old one was in terms of crash avoidance and that sort of thing? Actually, we don't know yet, as no ANCAP crash test result has been published just yet. But both the V7 and V9 tick many, if not all, of the required boxes with Australian tune ADAS tech like AEB, as well as 8 airbags, including a front centre airbag. I go into more detail on safety in my written review at carsguide.com.au. And another area where the Tunland ticks a lot of boxes is in the area of ownership. Though not quite the 10 years offered by Mitsubishi, Nissan and MG, Foton is swinging big with a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, including roadside assistance and 7 years of cap price servicing. Intervals are every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, while you can expect to pay around $650 annually or nearly $4,500 over that 7-year period. With Foton's latest ute aiming for the stars, Mars would certainly have been a more apt name. Not perfect, but it's a far better proposition than the old Tunland ever was, especially for the price. Okay, I admit our expectations weren't high, but the 2026 Foton Tunland is so much more than we could have hoped for. In fact, it even shows the established players a thing or two about equipment levels and value for money. There certainly is life on Tunland. Don't forget, you can read the full review at carsguide.com.au, and as always, thanks for watching.